What we'd like to do is pivot to the Russia probe right now. Late last night, Bob Mueller releasing sentencing documents for Michael Flynn, the fired national security advisor. He is considered one of the linchpins of Mueller's investigation. A stunning new memo from special counsel Robert Mueller requesting 0 jail time for President Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn. In the memo, Mueller acknowledges Flynn's cooperation and substantial assistance in the Russia investigation. According to the heavily redacted documents, the former general sat for 19 interviews and provided first-hand information about the content and context of interactions between Trump's transition team and Russian government officials. It also states that Flynn is assisting the special counsel with information on another unknown criminal investigation.
We do not need a reckless president who believes she is above the law.
It was Flynn who lambasted Hillary Clinton at the Republican National Convention in 2016, leading chants of lock her up.
Lock her up, that's right.
Before pleading guilty himself to lying to the FBI about his conversation with Russian ambassadors a year ago. Flynn, he is the first person to plead guilty in Mueller's investigation that could avoid jail time altogether. And joining us now, former Federal Prosecutor Roland Riopelle. And Roland, first off, thank you for being so flexible. Obviously, a day of remembrance for the late president. When we finally got the sentencing document, I know the redactions made it tough to glean a lot, but what still stood out to you, both, I guess, the lack of jail time and moreover, the level of, I guess, cooperation?
Yes, and those two items added to the fact that so much of this document has been redacted really indicate that there is some kind of atom bomb-like bombshell coming to me. A document like this would only be heavily redacted like this if the Office of the Special Counsel has a great number of targets, that is, people that they believe they can charge with crimes out there that they don't want to see the facts that are being reported to the judge. So the heavy redactions, the great number of meetings, and the variety, the 3 different schemes that this witness has described, all indicate that there's a lot more to come and that it's probably coming pretty soon.
Well, Roland, I want to get to the timeline in a second, but the meetings, 19 of them. And just as a point of reference, if you can remind our audience, he had a cooperating witness agreement, but he severed his ties to the Trump team, unlike Manafort, for example. So they're in the dark, one would think, as to what Mr. Flynn has shared in those 19 meetings. And again, the time intersection coming on late in the campaign, but yet into the inauguration. And we know what happened, obviously, with his various conflicts. If there's a Russia connection that he was privy to, and it certainly seems that way with Kislyak, and what may also be attached, he could be at the epicenter of some real problems for the president.
Oh, I think that's absolutely true, Richard. I mean, let's keep in mind that, General Flynn had a tete-a-tete dinner engagement with Vladimir Putin in December of 2016, shortly before Mr. Trump was to be inaugurated. One wonders what he and Vlad whispered in each other's ears that night and whether he was, in fact, carrying a message from the president. It's certainly possible. He's also right in the middle of trying to set up a direct line to the Russians together with Jared Kushner. You'll recall the reporting on that issue, to set up a direct and secure line outside the normal chains of communication. That's highly suspicious activity. He's right in the middle of it with Jared Kushner, and he must have reported in great detail about that to the special counsel. So there's an awful lot in terms of the connection with Russia that General Flynn is right in the middle of.
Now, some were saying, and I'm curious if you agree, it sounds like you may not, that given the level of redactions, this isn't something, this document, it wouldn't be is heavily marked out. If he was ready to, as you say, drop the bomb, there may be more levels to this because it seems to be so rife here with other people that could soon be charged. This thing may not be, somebody said they described it as in the 7th inning. You think it's closer to the 9th?
I do. I think that, you would redact a document like this to a great degree if you were late in the investigation and you feared that your targets were sophisticated individuals with the means to flee the country. Who might that be? Could be Jared Kushner, could be Donald Jr. The people who are targets of Mr. Mueller's investigation, Roger Stone, all have significant means, all are very sophisticated as targets go, and all could flee the country and establish residence outside the country in a country without extradition. And so you would hide all this from them even if you were on the eve of activity. Now, it may be that we're in the 7th inning and not the bottom of the 8th. That may be. It's hard to gauge these things given how closely Mr. Mueller is playing his cards.
And Roland, they're telling me I got little time, but this week we could see the same document we saw as it related to Flynn for both Manafort and Cohen. Talk about the significance of that.
Yeah, and again, we may see a document relating to Manafort's alleged lies that is so heavily redacted, it doesn't tell us much either. It looks like Mr. Mueller wants to continue to play his cards very close to the vest. And the reason for that typically is not to tip off a target as to your next move.
As they say, wait and see. Roland, thank you so much for tonight. As always, my friend, I appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here, Richard.
And we are going to be back to wrap things up as we do this, the motorcade, taking George H.W. Bush's body to the church in Houston.